I also found out Genghis Khan is in Mormon heaven, luckily.
Oh,
Or
cool. You guys
likely.
can hang out. You guys are buddies.
Dude, me and Genghis Khan would have the best time in Mormon heaven. All right, let's start the let's count down.
Genociding people. That's great. Okay.
Not genocide. It's Mormon heaven. We'd be singing Kumbaya, not drinking. All right, ready? Three, two, one. No. We have better sync. Look at my camera.
What do you think I'm looking at?
Are you ready? Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
There's still a little delay, but that's just cameras for you.
It's perfect, Odie.
Everything is perfect. I have a question for you, though.
Hold on. Let me do the intro, Odie.
Oh, fine.
Yep.
If you want to.
Are you ready for the intro?
I mean, I guess.
3, 2, 1.
Jesus Christ, what are you doing?
Welcome back to another episode of the Unpop Podcast, where we talk about either unpopular things or popular things in an unpopular way. I'm your host, Kevin Miner. With me, as always, is my favorite they, them, Odie Matthews.
Hello, I am here. I almost dropped my coffee because you started clapping, and I was like, what are we doing?
We're gonna sync up our clap tracks.
Yeah.
Clap tracks are gonna be synced, man.
With spilled
It's
coffee.
gonna be like a viral video of booty shaking, how synced up our clap tracks are.
And it's called a clap back, but, you know.
It's a clap back on a clap track, bro.
I don't get it.
And then we'll play Borderlands and have Claptrap. So Claptrap can get a clap back on a clap track.
Everything you just said went so far over my head. I'm not gonna lie.
Someone out there got all of those references and they were like, yes, this is the person for me. Anyway, so Odie, you wanted to ask me a question. Hit me.
Well, I was curious. This is nothing to do with anything, but just off the rip. If there was one...
Nothing to do with anything, go.
Yeah, nothing to do with anything. All right, podcast over. If there was one like type or genre or like niche thing that's always in movies, like one specific type of movie that's just like overdone, what type of movie would you say? So it could be like, you know...
Christmas.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. I bring this
I
up...
bet you weren't ready for like just a solid answer.
Immediate. Just like Christmas. I hate it. Fuck Santa.
It's not that I hate it. It's just overdone.
Okay, that's
like,
fair.
There's just how many... And like everybody knows that they're cheesy and some people are like cult Christmas movie fans and like that's the point of Christmas movies to them. But because of that, there's like it's just like still making greeting cards, right?
Yeah.
Like Hallmark stores still exist, but we don't need all those cards. Like we could easily make custom cards. Like we could easily just print them in our own homes.
It's
but
an
Hallmark
industry.
stores still exist. Same thing with Christmas movies. There's enough of an audience that is still present for this, that is still here for it, right?
Yeah.
That they just get made.
Everybody over the age of
year.
70.
And I feel like too many of them get made. Anyway, go on.
Okay, so the reason I ask is that, for one, that's a great answer, and I should have seen that coming because obviously Christmas. But I bring this up because before we started,
Yeah.
and you said wait for a second, I pulled out my phone to look at something, and there are 4 movies coming out in 2023 about sharks.
Okay.
2 of which have the same plot about megalodons.
Okay.
And I just think it's funny because it feels like every year we get a ton of like shark movies, and some of them make them to cinemas and some of them go like straight to streaming, and it's just so overplayed.
Hold up. Is there a genetic relationship between megalodons and sharks?
Yeah, they're prehistoric sharks.
Is a megalodon a shark? Because I feel like megalodon was like a more of like a lizard thing.
It's a prehistoric shark.
It's a megalodon is a prehistoric shark?
Yeah, did you ever see
had
the
no
movie The
idea.
Meg with Jason Statham?
No, absolutely not. Totally skipped it.
Well, good. Guess what? Good for you, because they're making a sequel that comes out this year.
Called what?
The Meg 2. The Trench or something.
And they're going to the Marianas Trench?
Well, I think that's where the first one was. And then there's the Meg 2 about the Megalodon. And there's a movie coming out called Black Demon about a black shark off an oil rig that traps the oil rig workers because the shark is a curse. And the only way to get rid of the curse is to kill it. And the curse was sent from an ancient civilization because oil rigging mining is bad. That's the plot of the movie. That makes sense? I feel like I explained that pretty well.
Really weird plot, but for some reason, I'm more into that one than the sequel to the Meg.
Watch the trailer. I'm not going to lie. That one actually kind of looks interesting.
The plot, like, at first, you did not have me. You were like, black shark, oil rig, trapping them. And then you're like, it was sent there by an ancient civilization. I'm like, now we're getting into an interesting realm of fiction, right? Like, I'm not interested because it's plausible. I'm interested because it's imaginative now. Like, I'm like, okay, now we're getting a little creative. And you're like, and it's because oil rigging is bad. And I'm like, okay, well, sounds like there's a moral. That sounds way more developed than we have to go into the Marianas Trench because the Meg is also there. I don't know. Like,
well, no, the sharks are the one that are using the oil rig. The sharks are drilling for oil. The humans are trying to stop the sharks.
Here's what I don't get about the shark movies. Like, Jaws, right? At the end of Jaws, Jaws dies.
Yeah, he explodes. Mr.
And
Jaws
then
explodes.
there's Jaws 2, because Jaws 2, more money for us, please, shark movie, right?
Yeah.
And then there's Jaws 3. We have a franchise now, and you'll come see it. Fuck you. We don't care.
3D.
Yeah. And then, like, later, someone makes Sharknado, right? And
there's Jaws 4.
Like, well, there's a Jaws 4? No, fuck Jaws 4.
It has Dennis Quaid.
I don't even care. I don't even care anymore. Like, okay, so Jaws 4, whatever, it's over there. And then there's, like, in between that, there's not really, like, there's, like, a Deep Blue Sea. Right? Deep classic giant shark movie.
LL Cool J.
Right? First thing I think of when I think of Deep Blue Sea is LL Cool J giving like the performance of a lifetime.
It's great.
But then like in between that and now you've got like, you know, you've got like, what's the one where they're like treading water, right? Like they're just in the ocean. You know what I'm talking about.
There's that one, and there's the one with Blake Lively.
Not Deep Blue Sea. What was it? Yeah, it was called like
Open Water.
Open Water. There it is.
Yeah.
And they're just like, that's the whole, like, anybody who bought a ticket to that movie, if they went and they were like, man, they're spending a lot of time in open water, should have just gone, oh, I get it.
I used to see that case in Blockbuster all the time and be like, oh, shark movie. But I was like, you know, a child because Blockbuster. But, real quick.
I love Blockbuster.
I just want to say one thing about this, and then we should probably talk about the actual topic. You mentioned Jaws. Okay. I have one fun fact. I have a lot of fun facts about Jaws. But I have one fact about Jaws. So years after the movie came out, like that kind of started Jaws kind of started the whole stigmatism around like great whites being like man-eaters when more people are killed by cows than they are sharks every year. And so after that happened, like great whites started to get hunted.
Man-eating cows?
Yeah, man-eating cows. Yeah, they're in
Whoa.
Uganda. Yeah, Uganda.
Is that what
Ugandan man-eating cows. They're pink. That's where strawberry milk also comes from. But so he said a couple years later, like because great whites started to get like targeted and like hunted, and like people started to become really afraid of them and started like attacking them, that he really regretted making the movie because that kind of like started the whole stigmatism around like people like hunting and being afraid of sharks when realistically like it's not true. So like Steven Spielberg admitted that he kind of like regretted like making a movie where the shark was the villain when sharks really aren't villains. So,
whoa,
interesting.
Okay. Yeah. That is interesting.
Also,
give me
Jaws
another
4.
Interesting fact about Jaws.
Okay, I'll tell you an interesting fact about Jaws 4. So, I was wrong. Jaws 4 does not have Dennis Quaid. That's Jaws 3 at the SeaWorld amusement park where the original shark's son comes back for revenge against Adam Brody's son, who's played by Dennis Quaid. But Jaws 4 has Michael Caine as a sea pilot, and he admitted that he didn't even remember that he was in the movie. He literally only did it for the paycheck. Here's the plot of Jaws 4. The wife of the original character from Jaws 1, so Adam Brody, she goes to the Bahamas on vacation, and guess what?
Jaws.
One of the sharks that was related to the original shark tracks her down, follows her from Maine or wherever, Amityville or wherever the original place is. The shark follows her. She's on a boat, and there's scenes of the shark following the boat all the way down to the Bahamas, and then I think like her and Michael Caine blow it up again or something.
Well,
it's really
sharks
bad.
they can smell people's blood, right?
On a boat?
No, just like they can smell people's blood, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Why do I
Jaws
know
4,
so much about the
if
Jaws
it's not called
franchise?
Jaws 4 Blood Scent, then I have no idea why it even exists. Because if you did not deliver on that pun with that kind of a movie, come on. Blood Scent? Literally, come on.
Do you want to know what the tagline for, or what the...
I 100% want to know the subtitle for that movie. It's Jaws 4 what? And then I want to know the tagline for this movie.
It's just Jaws, The Revenge. That's it.
Just the revenge?
Just the revenge.
Oh my god. Okay, what's the tagline for the movie? Hit me with it. What's on the poster?
Hang on, let me see. Let me pull it up. I don't know. I know Jaws facts, but I don't know that one. Oh, oh my god. Are you sure you want to know this?
I want to know the tagline, and then I'm going to tell you why I think the tagline is as bad as I'm sure it is. Hit me.
Okay, I'm going to tell you that, and then I want to show you the poster, and then for everybody else, go to my Instagram at Odie Matthews. I'll put this up on my story.
Do it.
All right. I'll put this up on the story the day that this podcast comes out. Just remind me.
Perfect.
It's called Jaws, The Revenge. This time it's personal.
Stop it.
Here's the poster.
Oh my fucking god. Okay, hold on. Here's why I think movie posters are so bad, and why I think movie titles end up suffering, and why movie taglines suffer as well. I honestly think that the creative bulk of a movie comes into existence when the people who write movies, not the screenplay writer, the actual person who writes a movie plot, right? So the person who has the original idea, gets it together, and maybe works with a writing team, whatever the case. But the bulk of creativity that gets poured into the creation of a movie on that end, forget acting, forget directing, forget all that stuff. The bulk of the creativity that creates the concept, the conceptual creativity of a movie, happens there. Then what happens is you bring in the director and the executive producers and all this other stuff and that is flashy and that people care about and that win Oscars and all that stupid shit, and that happens, and I'm calling it stupid shit, and I know it's not stupid shit, but I'm calling it stupid shit to summarize.
No, you're right.
But all of that happens, and then what happens is it gets passed on somewhere in the process. It gets passed on to a marketing team. They're we're far enough along. It's been greenlit. It's being filmed. We have a release date. We have now we need trailers. We need taglines. And what happens in that process is all of a sudden these other people who have a stake in the movie have a little bit of say, right? Where they haven't had a lot of say before, and they start tossing their ideas out, and they just want to make a mark on the thing, right? And then you end up with these shitty titles that miss the fucking mark, and then the people who are marketing it, they have to come up with the tagline, and of course they're going to go with the easiest one, which is this time it's personal. Why would you put out any extra effort for a fourth movie in a franchise that didn't need a fourth movie
about a shark
and has a shitty title? Sharks can smell blood in the water. Blood Scent, SCENT, is a homophonic play on words, because blood scent would also mean that the shark was blood scent, it's sent after the blood of the original person based on the scent, right? The pun is built into it. You've made it more fun. People are going to engage with this more. And then you can say this time it's personal, because then it's funny. The only movie that ever correctly did this, and I know that it correctly did this, is Snakes on a fucking Plane. The reason I know it correctly did it is because I went and saw it in theaters. Was it a packed theater? Fuck no.
Absolutely
But were
not.
people in it ready to see it because of the marketing of the movie? Yes. People were ready to see Samuel L. Jackson deliver the fucking tagline to that movie, which is the unofficial tagline of the movie. Because whatever the fucking tagline of Snakes on a Plane is, feel free to look that up. But the unofficial tagline of the movie, first off, Samuel L. Jackson makes his first appearance in that movie and uses an Arnold Schwarzenegger line. He says, "Come with me if you want to live," and people stood up and clapped in theater for this man saying that line. Then Later on, then we're all just laughing. We're having a great time. Everybody in the theater was like fist pumping. I've never had an experience in a theater like this. I went with the drummer from my high school band. Not band like high school band, but like the band I was in high school. I was in like a post-hardcore emo band, right? The drummer and the guitarist and I went to go see this movie together, knowing full well, yes, we're going to spike our drinks with alcohol. Yes, we're going to be a little bit high rolling into this thing. Yes, we're going to be absolutely loud and ridiculous during this film. And people were straight up, like people rolled into the film, like the theater, and you're like, you too, yes, fucking you too. We're all here. We're in the same room. We're in the same mood. Everyone's on like the same fucking vibe, right? And like we just wrote it. Like we stood up and clapped for Samuel L. Jackson every time he had a big line. And then all of a sudden we get to the big line of the movie, which everyone was ready for, where he goes, I'm sick of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane. And I swear to God, the theater erupted into cheers and applause. And we applauded at the end of the movie too, because they delivered. It was like the only time the marketing
Can I rain
team
on your parade?
Really linked in and delivered on that shit. Yes, fucking ruin it for me. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me just ruin this wonderful experience because I just looked at the tagline to Snakes on a Plane, and I think you're going to be disappointed.
What is the tagline?
Snakes on a Plane. Sit back, relax, enjoy the fright.
Fuck!
For all the audio listeners, Kevin just...
Damn it!
He's yelling in the background. He took off his headphones. He's gone. He's angry. He's gone, everybody. All right, so this is my podcast now, so let's talk about what we all came here to talk about. Let's talk about the doors to our chimneys. Now, chimney doors are important, and at 1-800, chimney doors are important.
Why was it that tagline? Why?
There might be a loud clap in there somewhere.
God damn. I'm sure there's a loud me throwing my fucking mic in there.
But you know what's funny?
I never read the tagline of the film because I didn't have to. The tagline of the film is, I'm sick of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking
You're missing
plane.
a part of that line,
That's
too, though.
The line. What is it? It's that's it. I'm sick of these motherfucking snakes.
No, he goes, that's it. I'm sick and tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane.
Yeah.
And then he says, put on your seatbelt. I'm about to open a fucking window or a motherfucking window or something like. He says something about opening a window.
But no. That's not part of the line. The line is, that's it. I'm sick of. I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this whatever it is. And then, oh my God, it's just the best fucking the marketing team knew this was like. I feel like everybody was in on the joke. Like everybody who made that movie, like they were like, "Can we get Samuel L. Jackson?" Like it was a meeting. It wasn't like we've got Samuel L. Jackson. It was like, "Can we get Samuel L. Jackson?" You know.
Let me play it. I'm gonna play the line. Play the line live. Ready?
Play the line.
Enough is enough. I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane.
I can't hear
Everybody
it.
strap in. I'm about to open some fucking windows.
Yep, he does say something about windows. You won't be able to hear that. I put it up to the
whatever the
podcast
case.
mic.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. The
Now
case
everybody knows.
is.
We're all on the same page.
Here's the thing. Like,
what are we talking about today?
I don't care what we're talking about now. We took a detour and you unleashed it, and now this is
talking
the
about,
topic.
Let's just talk about poor marketing since we're on
You
it.
have unleashed. Yeah, sure. Let's just delve right into that.
I have another example.
One.
You gave me a good
on.
example, but keep going.
Let me finish my thing. So
Never.
then, rounding this back out to finish my point, because I feel like if I don't, then I just had a rant
Go for it.
nothing.
I'll be quiet.
Okay. You don't have to be quiet, but like I just.
I'll
want to
shut up for the
finish
remainder of the
point I was
podcast.
making.
All yours.
All right, great, thank you. So, what ends up happening, like in that case, is like everybody was in on the joke. Like the people who went to see it were in on the joke. The people who made the movie were in on the joke. Fucking Cobra Starship wrote the song. Cobra Starship. Like they did it right. Like
yeah, they really
the
did.
whole thing was correct. Yeah, even fucking they got Travis from Gym Class Heroes on the song. Like the whole thing was a thing. It was a thing. It was a cultural moment where I feel like we affirmed, yes, we can actually make a joke and have it be relatively successful and a cult classic. So like that was great. But then these shark movies come along and it's like they're just like, we're making a shark movie because we know people will see shark movies. And then there's no extra effort put into it, right? Like Jaws 4, I almost said Blood Scent. Not Blood, The Revenge. Fuck that. But like but then you have like The Meg 2, The Trench. Like No, it's the Meg 2, then something that happens in the trench. You can't call it the Meg 2 the trench. The trench is another concept. You can't do that. The best movie I've seen that's even relatively in the realm of what we're talking about is Underwater. Have you seen Underwater?
Is that the one with Kristen
yes,
Stewart
Kristen
and TJ
Stewart.
Miller? Yeah,
Yes,
that's a good one.
and
That's a good one.
Absolutely phenomenal. Like,
it's got Cthulhu.
Yes, they're in the Marianas Trench, right? Weird things start happening. But the thing that I like about that is like it's like less than 2 minutes in and just emergency. Like Underwater, here's the emergency, here's what's going on, deal with it. You're along for the ride. And it never lets up the entire time. And then it peaks with like this Cthulian type monster coming out of this thing that they were digging in the trench. So it plays out very much like a Lovecraftian story. It's an homage to Lovecraft in a lot of ways, but it's also an underwater deep sea thriller with weird fucking monsters. And they never fully explain it. They just show some crazy shit. They got to get out of crazy situations. It's getting whittled down one by one by one until 2 people are left. It's absolutely phenomenal. And like, I like, there's no other movie, especially not shark movies, that have delivered on that. Like, I feel like Underwater, like, it was enough that it got me in because I'm jaded to, like, deep sea movies now because of shark movies and shit like that. But, like, Underwater finally, like, came back around, right? To come full circle on it, their marketing was finally good. Like, I was like, oh, that looks intriguing. I'll watch it. Anyway.
I like that. I think that's completely correct because... I mean, we could talk about marketing all day long, but the one that, because it's so new and so fresh, that really sticks out to me is, I mean...
Black Shark.
I love movies, and I love, like, behind-the-scenes stuff about movies. And for Shazam, Fury of the Gods, right? I didn't see it. Did you see it?
Absolutely not. I'm superhero fatigued. We don't even need to talk about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But go on.
So there's a lot of people talking about Shazam, but there's one thing. When the original trailer came out, there's a scene in the trailer where Shazam, Zachary Levi, the man who changed his name, he throws a truck. I can tell you about that story about Zachary Levi. It's really fucked up. But he throws a truck at a dragon, and then it cuts to him, and he's like, oh, I just threw a truck at a dragon. My life is awesome. And it's the most cringy, like, why nobody in their fucking life would say that. Like, the teenager that turns into Shazam is, like, 18. So, like, if an 18-year-old... Like, anyway, so... Come to find out, that scene isn't even in the movie. And David F. Sandberg, the director, had to specifically shoot that scene so marketing could use it in the trailer, knowing full well it wasn't going to be in the actual movie. And there's a lot of times where shots in the trailer don't end up in the movie. And there's two reasons, and this is why I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit.
Okay.
There's two reasons for that.
Yeah,
One,
get into it.
You've got the Marvel approach where, like, when Infinity Wars trailer came out, there was scenes that were deliberately shot to throw you off of what was going to happen in that movie. Like, all the Avengers at the end of the trailer, including the Hulk and everything, are like running at the camera. Never in the movie. So you're like, oh, when is this going to happen? It's a deliberate fake out because you want to be surprised. And then there's what Shazam did, where marketing people, back to your example, that maybe just have a little bit of power, decide, you know what would be really funny and what kids and everybody would like is if he threw a truck at a dragon and said that it was awesome. And they're like, we'll shoot that and put it in the trailer. And it's like, you do this for a living, and you thought that was smart?
Okay. I feel like I can see the mechanism. I'm not excusing it. I think it's horrible, and I've not seen either Shazam movie because I'm just not interested. But like what you've just described to me, which I'm like aware of, but didn't even care to look up on YouTube, right? Like I didn't even care to look up the scene that everyone was like, oh, it's cringy. Like I don't care. Like all I had to hear was what it was and that it was cringy, and just go, oh yeah, cool. I don't need to see it. But like, I can understand that they probably did that to give it like that, like, oh, look, it's kind of like Deadpool. He's like talking to you maybe. And it's fun and family friendly because this is like the fun family friendly DC thing. It's not all grim, dark DC. Like, for me, like, since this is now the topic of the show, like, and you know this very well, DC movies do not hit for me. No. Like, and it's also partially because of the marketing. Like when I remember when like Man of Steel came out, I think that was the last DC movie I was excited for, and it was because I knew who Henry Cavill was from The Tudors, the show The Tudors.
Oh, yeah,
I
I've heard
knew
of it.
him from The Tudors, and I remember him watching him on that show as he was like a pirate on the show. He was like this pirate character, this historical pirate character, who was friends with Henry VIII. And I remember watching it and just being like, whoever that guy is, I could watch him do anything. And then, like, years later, like only a couple years later, but like I was like, oh, there's that guy. He's Superman. Fuck yeah. You know, like I'll go watch that. And I watched it and it was not bad. Like it was fine.
I love Henry Cavill.
Me too. And I love that he's in the Warhammer universe now, which is like a whole other thing that we could talk about because I just fucking, you know how I am. I get hyper fixated on things and especially creative things. So like Warhammer 40K is something that like I've watched people play just for the sake of understanding the play. And like just like, and I ask them questions and I've painted minis because like I want to understand it, you know? And then like I'm actually sitting next to a Warhammer Tyranid deck box. And like, but I love that he's into it. Like, so it, to me, that almost rings out that like the material that comes out of his new partnership with it, because they're going back to marketing, they were like, Henry Cavill's in, he's leaving DC, he's doing Warhammer stuff with us here at Games Workshop. And I was like, hell yes. Because he is a fan of the material and he wants it to be like true to form. And I guess that's part of the reason that he left the freaking Witcher, you know, was like the material wasn't the way that he wanted it.
He wanted that to be more accurate on the Witcher.
Yeah.
And that was season 1. I'm pretty sure
it's bad.
I think he kind of got a little fucked all around because I'm pretty sure he was supposed to leave The Witcher to go back to DC, and then James Gunn took over, and then they were like, actually, we don't need you anymore. And then I think he just kind of got lucky that Warhammer was in the middle of all that, because honestly, I think he would have gotten fucked out of being The Witcher and in DC.
Oh, I don't think
so
he
good.
got lucky. I think the Warhammer thing's been in the works for a while because like over the years he's been consistently producing like a little more Warhammer content on his own. Like not that he's producing content where he's like, I'm Henry Cavill and we're gonna unbox a Tyranid army. Like no, he's like actually just been
about it.
Yeah, he's just been in public being like, I love the Custodes. And I'm like, oh, sick. This guy knows who the fucking Custodes are. That's awesome. Well, because like they're like a thing that like, you know, if you're not into Warhammer and you go to get into it, eventually someone's going to be like, and then there's these guys and they've got nothing but gold armor and they have fucking lances and they're huge and they're almost invincible and their names are so long that it takes 20 minutes to say them. Like, that's cool shit. Like, that's cool shit. Even like if you don't want to sit there and hear a name for 20 minutes, you're just like, wow, that's fucking interesting. Like going back to where like we were talking with the Black Shark movie, whatever. What's it called?
Shit, I already forgot.
Black
Lagoon or something? I don't
know.
No,
It's not Black Lagoon. It's oil rigging, bad shark monster civilization thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. That movie, like as you were describing the plot, I was like, all right, this is a little ridiculous. And then I was like, oh, a little creative. Okay, that's a nice twist. I'll check that out. You know, like with Warhammer, like I feel like it's the grim dark universe. Like in the grim dark future, war is the only, what is it? It's like war is the only thing that is constant or whatever. I forget the fucking tagline for Warhammer right now. But it's so like it's so interesting once you start getting into that universe that you're just like, oh, this is cool. Like, and there's a little bit of something for everybody, unless you don't like hyper violence, because like everything's hyper violent in it. That's the point, because it was originally part satire of like sci-fi, like action sci-fi. It was a partial satire. Like they were like, oh, cool, yeah, we'll make all these nods to like sci-fi movies. Like, there's an entire race called the Necrons that were literally designed to look like the Terminators. And now they have taken on like a whole new development of like lore and backstory, which is infinitely more interesting. But to start, they were just like a parody, and it was fun. And I feel like they've kept a lot of the fun in that universe while adding on to it with a little bit of serious like nerdy lore.
I know zero about Warhammer, so I'm pretty excited because I think it's interesting because I think that like I've heard this about Warhammer, I've heard this about Dungeons and Dragons, two things that I've never really gotten the chance to be involved with. I've always wanted to do Dungeons and Dragons though. I've I've always thought that'd be kind of fun. But like, those two are the ones that I see pop up the most when people are like, how do we not have, like, how are we on our third set of Spider-Man movies, but we've never tapped into the potential of Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer for stories and movies and TV shows and everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I see
Yes.
those brought up a lot.
I can explain why in 2 examples. So, the reason Dungeons and Dragons, well, first off, Dungeons and Dragons has been tapped into for its potential
2000.
before. And before that even, there was a cartoon show, and it was very generic, very G.I. Joe, Transformers era. We're learning we're learning a lesson every episode. It was about these kids who are high school stereotypes that get sucked into another world, and it's Dungeons and Dragons, and there's a mentor there, and he's helping them, and he's a wizard, and one of them's a paladin, and the other one's a ranger, and the other one's, like a fighter, and like, so they're all the different classes, and then they have adventures every week, and it was so cheesy, but I'm sure some people grew up on it and loved it. But if you look at it now, you're like, yeah, it wasn't that good. And then in 2000, they tried to tap into it, but like they literally did the most generic thing you could do, and didn't do any. Like, Dungeons and Dragons is literally a game that's it is not only run but fueled by the people who add so much creativity and world building to it that it expands outward, right? So like, that is probably the main reason we've never had a Dungeons and Dragons movie until now. But now there's enough personalities, and there's been like enough books, and there's been enough years of build up and like celebrity interest in the game itself. And you have things like Critical Role and Acquisitions Incorporated and Live Play is a whole thing. Like, so now people know enough about Dungeons and Dragons that like, even in the trailer, people are like, oh, I know, those are the Red Wizards of Thay. That's cool, like, so now that enough people know it, they're like, all right, we're going to take a chance. And I feel like if it succeeds, yeah, we'll get some more Dungeons and Dragons shit, which will be cool. But when you play Dungeons and Dragons, it's not like the movie. It's
definitely
like
not.
90% you as a DM, which I've been for years, going, all right, I'm going to build up this entire scenario. And then, like, it's 90% of you building that up and then watching your players either not interact with it or interact with it in whatever way they want to try to break it, right? Like, that's most of Dungeons and Dragons is that back and forth, right? So, like, making a movie about the famous legends that happened in the Dungeons and Dragons community, like, there was a group that was like, oh, we don't like all of these dungeons that have all these traps in them. Can we just make an army of 1,000 armored chickens that we can bring into every dungeon with us? And like, they had the ability, so their DM's like, yeah, you can have 1,000 armored chickens, you just can never sneak ever again, like but that would not, like, in a movie, people would not take that serious. They just even me, if I saw that in a movie, it's good for a one-off gag. It's
like
not
a Monty
good
Python skit.
Yeah, it's not good for like a movie. So now that there's enough characters, they can finally dabble into that. And as far as Warhammer goes, 100% the main reason that we have not gotten into Warhammer yet, and it's like kind of, this is like a tough thing to say, but really I think it's the level of misogyny that existed in it up until very recently. Like, Warhammer's just starting to get into an area where it's more progressive, and if you read a lot of the books, it's the darkest side of human nature to it, but like, even that gets dialed up. Like, everything is bad. Like, all of the worst parts about society exist. People live on these things that are called hive worlds, and hive worlds are like the worst things to live on. Like, imagine like the doomsday sayer stuff that we say about Earth, with like giant cities and barely being able to grow enough plant life to survive. That's like entire solar systems in this universe, and that it's just like billions of people, and like, because there's billions of people, the value of life is like so low, and like, like, the word putrid comes to mind, like literally the worst things that you can imagine. Like, I read Warhammer stories, and they get bad, man. Like, people just get ripped up, and their insides get used for different things. And like, I don't see that as being able to like, at least that part of the Warhammer universe, I don't see that being able to translate over properly for an international audience at all yet. But there are parts that would. like then you have like The Infinite and the Divine is a book that came out in the past year, and it's basically here's the plot. It's grumpy old men, but in space with immortal robots.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like hilarious. Like the comedy is to a T. Like these guys they're literally having a personal squabble over the course of eons in space as these like immortal robots who should be by all means conquering a galaxy, but instead are too fixated on how much they hate one another. Like hilarious. It's comedy gold. I loved every bit of it, but it's sci-fi comedy gold. Like remember Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
That is one of my favorite movies. Martin Freeman. Oh my God.
I love the movie.
Sam Rockwell.
I love the book. I love
Zoe
the movie.
So good.
Yeah,
I love that movie so much.
It's a cult classic, but it bombed. So like,
Yeah,
I feel like
it
when
did.
that bombed, and it's such a huge piece of like culture for sci-fi people, especially sci-fi people who have a sense of humor. Like, sorry
watch
to
that
anybody
today.
who doesn't think it's funny, but like, it's hilarious.
It's such a good movie.
Yeah, but like even the books, like the Douglas Adams book, they're amazing. It by all rights should have had the sequel, Restaurant at the End of the Universe, and Life, the Universe, and Everything, right? Like those should have been the sequels that came out, especially with that cast. Mos Def, Zooey Deschanel, Sam Rockwell, who plays one of my
Martin
favorite
Freeman.
characters in all of fiction.
I love Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, he plays Zaphod Beeblebrox, who's the president who literally kidnaps himself. It's amazing. But like that bombed. And it's one of the best universes ever built, and so funny and fun. And like I feel like people saw that bomb and that set back sci-fi by like a decade. Like I feel like a lot of stuff that was in the works got tabled. And Warhammer I think got tabled the most because like going back to what I was saying, like I just don't think that they had the correct audience. I don't think that they had the correct messages. I don't think that they had a developed message that could hit with multiple audiences until now that Henry Cavill's working on something. And even now there's some stuff in that universe that I'm like, oh, if you put that on film, like that's bad. Like that's hard. That's going to be hard to convey to people and justify. That being said, one of the guys who's most famous for writing some of the most hardcore Warhammer stuff is one of the lead story designers for Riot Studios and worked on.
You really like Warhammer.
And he worked on Arcane. And Arcane won so many awards, and it's because they took a guy who actually could have a more gritty, morally gray perspective and say, okay, nobody in this is a proper like good guy or villain. They're just people, and they're interacting, and some of them have a better idea of what like the cost of life is versus others, you know, or like some of them know how to value life better than others. And like that was really kind of the gauge that was set out. And then he made a series that explored the psychological torments of existing in these two cities. And that's amazing. And that could only come from someone who's delved into a universe that's so rich with moral quandary, you know? Yeah. That's.
Well, I mean,
I'm glad we had a topic for this show.
Yeah, I'm glad you. I think this topic is just Warhammer at this point. I didn't realize you liked it this much and knew this much about it. That's. Hey,
well,
but you know what? You made me think of so I have two questions for you to steer the ship back to the topic, if it's even a topic at this point.
Okay.
I have two questions for you. So the first question I have is, you mentioned something that I think is really interesting about marketing.
Yeah.
You mentioned when you were talking about Warhammer that, you know, it wasn't really until Henry Cavill came along that like traction started to build up for Warhammer. So do you think that not do you think, but talking about marketing, I think sometimes big properties try to grab big name actors or actresses from the time to then try to promote a new franchise. And we've seen this mainly with The Rock. You know, he gets attached to everything. You know, he replaced Brendan Fraser in Journey to the Center of the Earth. He was part of Fast and the Furious. He did Jumanji. He did Jungle Cruise. He's literally been in everything, and he's not good in most of it. But do you what's a franchise that you like attached a big actor that you were like didn't matter, it was still really, really trash? Because I have a couple examples.
Trash?
Yeah, just a bad movie, bad marketing, like just because there was a big actor, like it didn't work out.
Well, okay, so I I've come full circle on Fast and Furious. If you would have asked me like 5 years ago, I would have been like, Fast and Furious sucks. But like then I started watching them with someone who really appreciated them, and I think part of the stance that I've taken now, especially with franchises, is like, okay, cool, maybe they're not for me, but I'm gonna watch them with someone who appreciates it, so that I can learn like what is appreciated, like what is to be appreciated here. So like, there are a lot of franchises now that I would watch with someone who loves it and be like, okay, that's cool. But like, I mean, Rampage was a franchise as a video game, and I loved it as a kid. I played Rampage 64. I can't tell you how many hours I played that with my brother. Yeah, we were just, and you never did anything new. Like, you're just destroying the same levels over and over and over again. But you'd be like, oh man, we're going to Peoria. Let's fucking rock it, you know?
Yeah.
But like, that movie came out and it had The Rock in it, and that sucked. Like, it was the absolute worst. Like, they tried to do too much with it. They should have just made it a cartoony, zany, silly thing. You know, that would have been amazing. Like, other franchises, I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has literally never hit the mark.
This new one looks good, though.
Well, we'll see. I don't know.
It's animated in the same style as Into the Spider-Verse, and they cast all the actors for the main 4 turtles. I'm a big turtle fan. Are under the age of 16. They're all actual fucking teenagers.
Okay, thank God. That might be good. But like ultimately, you know, I might still watch it and go, all right, cool, it's good, but not for me.
Watch the trailer after this. It looks good.
And then, I mean, you know, my number one take is like pretty much everything in the DC EU so far has been a bomb, except for Peacemaker, and the Suicide Squad was pretty good. But like
James
Peacemaker
Gunn
was amazing, and everything else for me, apart from like, and even Man of Steel wasn't that good. Like,
can I say an unpopular opinion?
What?
So when it comes to the DC universe,
yeah,
I hit superhero fatigue. I think I told you this, but me and Goose, we went to go see Ant-Man 3, and we left that theater just being like, all right, no more superhero. We're done for a little bit. You're done. Yeah. You're done. The DC, I agree with you. I like this. I like the Suicide Squad. I like Peacemaker.
Yeah.
Unpopular opinion, I'm actually a fan of Zack Snyder's Justice League, the 4-hour cut.
I know.
I've seen it twice. When it first came out, I took the day off of work to watch it. And then I watched it again on a really long flight when I flew from East Coast to West Coast. Mm-hmm. I gotta be honest. I know we've had our conversations about Zack Snyder. I'm not going to get into it. I know the slow motion. I know his stylistic choices. I know his dialogue choices. I know, I can see the look on your face right now for everybody that's wondering. He's covering his face and laughing because we've had this conversation ad nauseum.
Yes.
But there is something about, and I think for me, honestly, what it comes down to is the actors in that. Like, I hate to say this, but like, I really like Ben Affleck as Batman, and I really like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. And until things came out about Ezra Miller, I really liked them as the Flash.
Yeah.
There's something about that movie, like the action and I don't know, like, as I think God, I feel like I'm digging myself a hole with you, but like at the end of the day, ultimately why I think I like a lot of Zack Snyder's movies, specifically that, is the cinematography. Yeah. Because you know me, I'm a big fan of cinema. I have a cinema camera. Like, that's what I want to do with my life. And my hero is Greg Fraser, who's a cinematographer. He did like the Batman. He's done like Arrival. He did Dune. And when I watched that movie, like Zack Snyder's movie specifically, there's something about his cinematography, minus all the slow motion, that, I don't know, like, I just really, really, it's just so beautiful to look at that sometimes I get caught up in it, you know?
Okay. I love The Watchmen. Okay? Love The Watchmen. I love that it was almost a shot-for-shot remake. I love the things that were cut from it. I love that there's a director's cut that's even better and has the entire subplot comic theme. The only reason I do not love the Justice League and a lot of the stuff that led up to it, first off, like, okay, Wonder Woman totally missed the mark because it was supposed to be a movie. Like, the whole way it was marketed to us was like, this is the moment for female superheroes. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm ready. And then the whole movie was mainly about the subplot. Like, if you're watching, like, Chris Pine comes along, she's like, who's this interesting man who I can tell that I know how to speak many love languages to? And, like, I love Chris Pine, and I love their interaction. But then she's like, hey, Chris Pine, I'm on an adventure with you now to save the world, and I'm only going to save it if I learn how to love. And I was like, fuck, man. You messed up. Come on. Like, I was ready for Patty Jenkins to be like, fuck men. Females are here now. We got Amazonian bitches, and Wonder Woman's kicking some ass, and she doesn't even care if there's a penis in the room. Like, that's what I wanted, and I didn't get it. And, like, for me, I felt like that's what I was promised. All the marketing, once again, going back to what we're talking about, all the marketing was like, yeah, Wonder Woman's here. And the soundtrack's amazing. That ba 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 ba. I was like, hell yeah, I'm in. And then I watched it and I was like, nah, man.
You could do that for we could sit here and talk about every DC movie and literally pick them all apart so easily.
Doom Patrol, amazing. Doom Patrol was great. But then the big thing with like Zack Snyder, and the only reason, like, going back to, like, I will just say about, like, most Zack Snyder films since The Watchmen is, I will just say, they aren't for me, right? And that's fine. I'm not a Zack Snyder fan in his, like, current, like his current works, his current, what is it, filmography, right? Like, I'm not a huge fan. I agree with the cinematography thing, but I feel like if you're an expert cinematographer, but you write a bunch of scenes that there's no payoff, like, it just sucks. Like,
those are two different people.
But the biggest thing, I get this, but he's the director, so he works with the cinematographer, and they piece that together, right? So, like, he writes this scene, and going back to, like, the Wonder Woman thing, finally, the Amazonian women had, like, their moment to shine, right? When they were fighting off like, this seemingly insurmountable horde. But instead of conveying, like, the real struggle there, and this is getting into more, like, the science of writing and film study and things like that, but, like, when you get into that realm and you start analyzing, like, okay, so they're struggling against an insurmountable force, their struggle ultimately is going to be in vain, I kind of know that already. You still, like, there was no moment in there where I had, like, any hope for them, right? Like, all of the moments were just like, oh, they're just doing this to show me how cool it looks. Like, I feel like a lot of what Zack Snyder does is like, and then this will look so cool. And then they'll say this thing, and it'll be cool. And I'm like, I don't want to watch a movie of what things that you think are cool. I want to watch authentic interaction, no matter how fictional it is, between people. And I want to see actual tension build up. And then I want the release of the tension to have a payoff, right? Like, that's what I want out of my scenes. Like, make love to your cinema. There should be a climax of each scene and a fucking payoff. And if there's not a payoff, then you didn't write it well. And, like, that whole scene, there's that amazing moment where this, like, Amazonian chick, she catches what is it? The cube thing, the Pandora's box or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then she does this awesome backflip, and it's all in slow motion, and I'm like, oh, this is like the one moment that it's real cool, and then immediately just gets shot once and she's down, and I'm like, where's the fucking payoff for that? Like, you're showing me a cool thing, I was ready for something else to happen, this scene's been going on for 12 minutes already, and then she's just shot and that's done? Like, really? Like, if that was the case, somebody should have gotten shot already and it should have been done. Like, don't set up the stakes and show me how cool someone is and how amazing and fast and great their reflexes are, and then just have them get hit by one stray bullet and be done. Like, set it up, have a payoff, move on. And I feel like most of that movie, like, the scenes go and go and go, and then there's just, like, no payoff. It just goes to the next scene. And then there's finally that scene where, like, Flash enters, like, what is it, the Flash Force or whatever? The Speed Force. Amazing. One of the best scenes ever. Like, so fucking good. I could watch that scene. But then, like, the payoff is just like, but then it's like hits peak action and then kind of fizzles, and then the payoff hits. And I feel like Zack Snyder just hasn't written anything that's had payoff like that in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I totally 100% agree. I'm interested to see what he does now that he's working with Netflix, creating his own world, has complete creative control.
Yeah,
see how that goes.
I mean, but his Star Wars or whatever.
Yeah,
because he couldn't do a Star Wars film.
So my other question for you is going to be but you're right. I mean, we'll see what it is. It's called, like, I almost said it's called Moonfall, but that's the movie about the moon crashing into Earth.
Oh God.
What is that movie? I'm not gonna lie though. I mean, and it could go either way. And again, I'm not like the biggest Zack Snyder fan. Like, I like The Watchmen. Like I like this Justice League. And the other movie from Zack Snyder that I like is Yeah, that's all I can. Wait, did he do the one I'm thinking of? No, that's Michael Bay. Yeah. Anyways,
Did he do 300?
Yeah, he did. I was thinking of a different movie.
I like
he
300.
did the first 300. That one's
I
not
like
bad.
300. Despite people getting the wrong political message from it, I like 300.
I like Sucker Punch too a little bit. But
You like which one?
Sucker Punch?
No, Sucker Punch is great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, Sucker Punch is amazing. Sucker Punch, okay. Zack Snyder, here, let's talk about like having payoff. Sucker Punch, big psychological reveal at the end of the movie. Payoff. Thank you. You wrapped up the story and did it in a believable manner, and we're all set.
He's hit or miss.
Thank you. Like,
He's hit or miss. So here's my next question for you.
Okay.
All right, this is the last question I have about marketing. So I asked you, what's a franchise you think attached an actor? I don't know if we really named a lot of them. The one that I was thinking of is I was thinking more of franchises that tried to get off the ground and failed. And the one that came to mind, we mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, which was early 2000s, had Jeremy Irons, had Marlon Wayans, had the second Jimmy Olsen from the Superman movies. Was supposed to be a big franchise, never happened. The Golden Compass was the one that I was going to say, because if you remember that movie from like 2006, it had Daniel Craig was like one of the main roles, a couple other big name actors. Thank God they ended up making it a TV show on HBO Max. His Dark Materials, 3 seasons, HBO Max. Daphne Keane from
Logan.
Amazing. I'm watching it for the second time because I got goose hooked on it. It is
Good.
so good. James McAvoy's in it.
I love James McAvoy.
Daphne Keane, like I said, she was X-23 in Logan, the little girl. She's the main character. She's
wow,
amazing.
they were just grabbing X-Men actors.
Yeah, pretty much. But so my next question.
And then
you.
what's his name? Miguel. What's his name? No, what's his name? The guy who did
Hamilton?
Yeah.
Oh, Lee-Manuel Miranda or whatever?
Yeah, Lee-Manuel
He's Lee
Miranda.
Scoresby. It's not Lee. What is his name? He's in it too.
It's something Manuel Miranda.
Anyways, great show. If you want a good, it's very fast. It's like 8 episodes a season, three seasons. They're like 40 minutes. It's like the perfect length. It's a really, really good story. And one of my favorite things about it is that you learn everything as the main character does. Yeah. So it's not like this big reveal and you have to wait and wait and wait. Like you're like, oh shit, that's what this is? Because the main character just found out. Anyways.
Okay.
My other question for you was going to be, what is some marketing for a movie or property? Could be even like a trailer for like a song. Could be anything. Okay. Like a trailer that you were like, oh, this is it. And then you saw the movie and you were like, that was ass. So like good marketing for a really bad property. Flip it a little bit.
I mean, back in the day, I would say the first time I really experienced that was Chronicles of Riddick with Vin Diesel, because like I loved Riddick as a character. Like he didn't, and the allure of Riddick was actually that he didn't have a lot of lines in a movie. He could have killed everybody. They demonstrated that he didn't do it. Proper character development, really good. Right? He ends up being the unlikely savior of a doomed mission on a doomed like travel, that lands on a planet where like these carnivorous creatures come out at night, right? So like that was cool. And then I remember seeing the Chronicles of Riddick like trailer. Speaking of slow motion, but like I remember seeing that and being like, oh, this is gonna be sick. I love Riddick. And then I saw the movie and I was like, it's all right. It's pretty good. Like, whatever. And, like, another Vin Diesel one, actually, Babylon AD has the worst opening line ever. And I remember seeing that and being like, oh, it's a fucking end of the world movie with
I
Vin
didn't know
Diesel.
anybody else had even
like,
seen that.
And I was like, oh, man, I can't wait to see this. I love Vin Diesel. I love Riddick. Like, and then...
So bad.
And then he got me twice, and then I never trusted him again. But, like, I would say that definitely is in that realm. I will say when the first Batman v Superman trailer came out, I was pretty excited. But then as more trailers came out, I was like, this doesn't.
And the whole
look
movie
good.
was released before the movie came out.
Well, but then I was just like, as more trailers were coming out, I was like, oh, this doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And like even Aquaman, like I was like, oh yeah, Jason Momoa, and like then I was watching the trailers and I was like, oh, this isn't looking good. Like
the one that is recent is we went to go see last weekend. We went to go see that new movie 65 with Adam Driver. Have you heard about that?
That did not get me.
So the trailer to me looked really good. I was like, oh my God, this is Adam Driver with a space gun on Earth 65 million years ago fighting fucking dinosaurs. Like, what else could you possibly want? This this is what we've been getting on TV. It's it's a guy with a daughter and he has to get her to safety and everything. It's Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
And that movie is so incredibly boring. It's hard to even say that it's boring because you would think there's dinosaurs in it, but like I don't want to spoil the movie, but it's one of those things that where it's like, yeah, things are going to go wrong, but the whole movie is just like one thing after another, but none of them have a payoff. It's like he keeps getting into fights with dinosaurs, but they're like the most boring fights imaginable.
Oh, you're saying
what I mean?
There's no payoff to the series?
Yeah, I'm bringing it back.
Yeah. So the writing just bombs on that.
But that's one. I mean, honestly, like Ant-Man 3, I think the trailers made that movie look way more amazing than it actually was. Is another good one.
Dude, I have not seen a single Ant-Man movie, and it is because Paul Rudd is just not for me. It's
fair.
And yeah, like they showed the first one, and I was like, he is not my guy. He is only my guy in Wet Hot American Summer. That's it. And then after that, I'm just not into it. Like, yeah.
That's really good.
He's not my guy. Like, I don't like actors like Paul Rudd and Tom Hanks. Like, I'm just not into them. Like, they're very
I don't like
everyday, Tom boring. He's boring to me. It's just not. It doesn't get me. But
Transformers is another one. The first Transformers. When I was a kid, when I was a teenager, when I was like 16 and that trailer came out, and I was like, oh my God, this looks amazing. And then I saw the movie and I was like, it's not Transformers. But you know what?
Who did James Transformers? Was that Michael Bay? Pass.
When the third Transformers movie came out, I can't remember. I think I was still maybe in high school or not. I would have been like tail end of high school or just into the military. Yeah. But I remember when the third movie came out, a group of friends of mine from high school, we dressed up in cardboard costumes for every single Transformers movie and went to the theater on opening night with cardboard homemade Transformers costumes.
That's awesome.
You're shaking your head. The second movie, the manager of the theater gave us free tickets. People were taking photos with us. And we called the theater when the third movie came out and let them know. And like we had like a big event put up. And like this sounds way bigger than it is. I lived in a town that maybe had 1,000 people. Like, so this wasn't like a big theater, it was like 8 screens, but it was super funny because by the end of the movie, all of our cardboard costumes had like just fallen apart,
That's great because that's just like shared joy. I like that. But
that was the jet.
I mean, I would agree with you. Like Transformers, like I didn't know much about them, but I had kind of watched the cartoons as a kid, and then like the trailer, I was like, "Whoa, this looks good!" And then I remember watching the first movie and being like, "Oh, this is not good." But it's because like when you're marketed something, and I think what people end up getting in a more immediate sense, I would just label it as something like hype fatigue because you get hyped, right? And then what ends up happening is you go and hype, or rather it's like hype disappointment. Like it gets hyped up so much and then you go and you're like, oh, it's not as good. Like it would be so much better if trailers would just like play movies down a little bit. And I know that like the science of that is that it doesn't draw people out to the theater because not everybody is Odie Matthews or Kevin Miner, and we're not going to analyze movies the same way. Like there are plenty of people who probably go and see like tons of franchise movies and love them. I don't. Like, I don't love a formulaic franchise movie. I want things to be different all the time. And I've grown up to want things to be different all the time. And I think part of the reason people are really experiencing superhero fatigue is we're continuing to grow up. So, like, the original audience that got into the big superhero boom, we're in our 30s now. Yeah. Like... and it was cool to relive a little bit of our youth in our 20s, right? Like congrats Hollywood, you cashed in on it. Like, yeah, we still did want to be kids in a lot of senses. But now we're like, okay, well, we're kind of done with that. Like, we don't have to be giant kids our entire lives, Yeah. And I think one thing that did do a successful job of marketing itself because it didn't play itself up and then it over-delivered was Andor. I don't know if you've watched that.
What kind of question is that?
But it is like...
No.
You've watched it, right?
Hang on.
Have you watched Andor?
Have you...
That was one of the best... I know, you have the tattoos. I don't know if you watched Andor.
Hang on.
It's like the least Star Wars thing that's ever been made.
For one, we've already had a conversation about Andor.
Okay,
Andor.
Good. Okay, good.
2...
I couldn't remember.
There is no exaggeration when I say that Star Wars is my favorite property on this planet.
Okay.
Did you see the new episode of The Mandalorian yet?
Yeah, I
By
loved
the time
it.
of recording, it's episode 4.
Yeah, it was great.
Do you know who that Jedi is that saves Grogu? Spoilers alert.
Yeah,
Do you know who that actor is?
Voiced Jar Jar Binks.
It's Ahmed Best who voiced Jar Jar, who not only did the mocap but voiced Jar Jar Binks and almost killed himself because of the backlash from fans. So Lucasfilms, specifically I think it was Kathleen Kennedy, wanted to bring him back in a role that people would see him as somebody other than Jar Jar Binks. So they made him the Jedi that fucking saves Grogu.
Yeah, I love that. I could
talk about
that's
Star
an amazing
Wars.
story. But no, so like a show, but like, wouldn't you agree that like marketing to delivery, Andor did a great job of under-promising, over-delivering.
Oh yeah, that trailer's
right?
insanely good. Oh my god,
Yeah,
insanely good.
because the trailer's just like, here's what's going on. Like, there's no faces that you're super familiar with other than Cassie and Andor, but come in and check out the show. And then you start it and you're like, whoa, this is way more than I bargained for.
So fucking
good.
good.
And in a good way. So like when it comes to shows like that, or like even movies, like when movies underpromise and overdeliver, I think they're amazing. Like I loved, I'll reveal where my, let's call it a stylistic bias, right? So like I have a bias towards certain types of writing and certain types of directing, and my stylistic bias tends to run along the lines of like, I just started watching Succession. I don't know if you've watched that show. Have you ever watched Succession?
I have not seen it yet.
Okay, Succession is fucking amazing. I didn't realize how amazing it was, but I kept hearing about it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to check out this show. And I start the show up, and I see executive producer Adam McKay. And I was like, of course it's fucking amazing. Adam McKay is a genius. Adam McKay, very famously, and this is not something that makes people think he's a genius, he did Anchorman. But Anchorman isn't about all the stupid nonsense that happens in Anchorman. It's about like misogyny in media, and then explores it just through like this horribly farcical lens that like is hilarious the entire time. And it was the first of its like type in a very long time. It actually,
that's why I didn't want to do number 2.
Well, and that was the movie that like launched Steve Carell's career, really, when he was playing Brick. Then all of a sudden, like 40-Year-Old Virgin comes out because of that, you know? Like, but so Adam McKay, Ryan Johnson, and then Guy Ritchie are like my.
I love Guy Ritchie, dude.
Those are like my favorite writers because they underpromise and overdeliver. Like Guy Ritchie doesn't release a movie and go like, well, actually, other than King Arthur, which I won't talk about, but like Guy Ritchie doesn't release a Guy Ritchie film and go, this is going to be the best movie ever. He's like, yeah, this movie's good. Like, and like The Gentleman, Rock and Rolla, the best one that he's ever written, Revolver. Have you ever seen Revolver?
Good. He did
Revolver's
both Sherlock
amazing.
Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes was amazing. You know, it showed that Robert Downey Jr. could do something other than Iron Man. So, like, Guy Ritchie, Ryan Johnson does an amazing job. We don't even have to have the Star Wars discussion. I think Star Wars missed an amazing opportunity to have someone in their universe who actually would write, like, well-developed character progression. Like
I like Episode 8.
I like everything except for the unrealistic physics of space. Like, how did that one ship not catch the other
There's
one?
an explanation for it.
I know that there's, but like, I was just like, they still have thrusters. They don't. Like, that's.
I don't know, man.
No. Also, anyway, like, but there were just things in that movie that didn't make sense. But there's so many moving parts with franchises now, because that's what studios are trying to cash in on, that I get how things get lost in the cracks, you know? So like, but like, that's my stylistic bias, are writers who have these really well-developed characters, or these characters that are intentionally on the nose so that you know what you're gonna get every scene, you know? Like, they do a very good job of telling you when they introduce a character, this is what this character's like. They are and they tell you in a subtextual way how likely that character is to change by how they interact with the people around them. And then you watch them change. You know, like, it's really fucking good. Like, and I feel like a lot of franchises end up doing what you originally asked about. They cast an actor to try to get people to come and watch, to try and build up the franchise, instead of just like making the franchise good and then casting the best actor for the role. Here's how far this bias goes. So I wrote I helped write a short film like 3 years ago, like right before the pandemic, right? So like 2019, right? My friends Micah and Victoria helped me doctor the entire thing up. It was originally the screenplay. Well, not even the screenplay, but like the script, like the first script was written by a good friend of ours, Kristen Noriega, who's now an up-and-comer in the horror scene, which is amazing. But like, so she wrote this like script, and she only had like 2 pages. And I remember reading it and being like, I really like where this is going, and I like the message. Can I play with this, Kristen? So I end up writing like an 18-page script, right? And then I pass it on to Mike and Victoria. And Mike and Victoria are like, hey, we see something could come out of this. Can we develop this script a little bit? And we ended up having like, they worked on it, I worked on it. We passed a couple drafts back and forth. Then we had like a 19-hour writing day. Like a lot went into this, right? And then we got to like casting because they ended up submitting the script and they won $40,000 to film it. So going back to where my bias goes for good delivery, like producing a good product, when it came time to cast, we originally had like a guy and a girl in the main roles. But then the 2 people who did the best were 2 women. And so they called me, Micah and Victoria, and they were like, can we cast this as a 2 female film? And I was like, without missing a beat, I just went, well, were they the best actors? And they went, yes. And I went, yeah, fuck it. Like, why would you even ask? Like, just do the right thing. Like, cast the right people. Don't cast someone because they match, like, the name that's written in the script. You can change a name. Like, I don't care. Like, you can gender swap stuff. It doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter. As long as the story gets delivered correctly and was written well, it's going to be good.
It's like casting unknowns, right? Like, some of the best... Like some of the best movies or like TV shows are when I'm like, who is this person? I look them up.
Who's that
like,
person?
They've done one other thing, and then now they're just like crushing it. That's how I felt with his Dark Materials. Like the main actress Daphne Keane, yeah, she did X-Men, but she was like 12, you know. Yeah. And I hadn't seen her in anything else, and I was like, she looks familiar, and I was like, oh my god, she's crushing it, you know.
Yeah. So
because they could have easily, because the main character is British and it's a young girl, they could have easily cast like Millie Bobby Brown or any other like whatever famous young British kids are running around.
But even Millie Bobby Brown, she was an unknown.
Yeah.
Right? Like you referenced Millie Bobby Brown, but like, dude, 2016, nobody knew who Millie Bobby Brown was, and she became 11 in Stranger Things.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that's how that goes. And I think, like, go like wrapping this around, coming back to, let's bring it back to sharks.
Okay. Millie Bobby Brown is a shark.
Let's wrap this episode up. We'll bring it back to sharks. You can't just write a shitty movie, like a Christmas movie or a shark movie, and then just cast decent, like, just cast popular. Let's say popular. Let's not even like qualify their caliber, right? Let's just say popular. You can't just write a shitty movie or something that isn't going to deliver well and then cast a popular actor to play the part and just hope that it'll go over fine. Because what's the best thing that you're going to get? Maybe like, and that's happening more and more because we're consuming more stories as people. Prestige television exists. Like the superhero wave has ebbed and now is flowing, and like maybe it'll ebb again, or it's flowed and now it's ebbing, and maybe it'll flow again. Like these things are happening because we're consuming more stories than ever before, because like that's what we do as people. We tell each other stories. Like any bit of information that we like impart is a story, and how memorable you are as a person even comes down to how well you tell stories sometimes. So like you can't just write these things and then throw them out into the universe with like a name attached to them and hope that they do well. You actually have to create quality shit, or you're gonna end up with The Meg 2, which sure, maybe franchise, but
it's got
like
Jason Statham.
So yeah, but fuck, name 10 Jason Statham movies.
Crank.
No, wait,
Crank 2,
no. Hold
The
on,
Italian
hold
Job.
on. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay. So I was
Wrath
like,
of Man.
wait.
He was
Wait,
in.
Wrath
I can keep
of
going.
Man?
Yeah, he's Guy Ritchie film.
Wrath of Man's not a Guy Ritchie film.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I've never seen a Guy Ritchie film called Wrath of Man. He's in Revolver, the Guy Ritchie film. He's in like almost every Guy Ritchie
Expendables,
film.
Expendables 2, Expendables 3. I can keep going. I love Jason Statham. He's one of my favorite actors.
He's a franchise actor, isn't he?
Furious 7. He was in the original Meg. He's in Spy with Melissa McCarthy.
Expendables 2 bombed. Expendables 3 bombed. Crank.
Okay, but
bombed.
you told me to
Crank
name
2
movies
bombed.
with him. You didn't say good movies.
Oh yeah, no, but that's what I mean. You can't just like throw these movies out there because they keep bombing. What is Wrath of Man? That's not a Guy Ritchie film.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It says a film by Guy Ritchie.
What the
right
fuck?
there? Have you not seen this? It's actually pretty good. Do you want to know what it's
did
about?
he have a fever dream?
Did you know who? Did you ever watch Mindhunters?
Yes.
And do you know who Josh Hartnett is from Lucky Number 11 and Black Hawk Down?
I love Lucky Number 11. Yes.
Dude, such a good movie, underrated. This movie
Super.
has Josh Hartnett, the older guy from Mindhunters, the older detective that's like more.
Oh
buff.
yeah.
And then Jason Statham. It's all about how he infiltrates an armored truck company to get revenge because that truck company did something. It's really.
Okay.
It's honestly, it's pretty good. It's got that. What's that storytelling narrative where like it drops you in like somewhere in the story, and then throughout the story, as you continue to move forward from that point, you get like little chops here and there from other parts.
Oh yeah, they Quentin Tarantino'd it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Anyways, really good.
All right.
He was also in Mechanic. He was also in Mechanic 2. He was also in Hobbs and Shaw.
Are you
That's
just
more than
reading
10.
the list now?
You can see my hands. What do you mean?
All right. I guess Jason Statham. But
I like Jason Statham.
You can't just make the Meg 2 and hope that it does well on the shoulders
It's
of
not
Jason
going to.
Statham because then
The first one didn't.
it ends up it ends up bombing. Like, and Christmas movies too. You can't just cast name actors
Like Lindsay Lohan?
I mean, obviously you can because that's what's happening and that's what we're talking about. But but ultimately, in talking about it, I feel like I do need to take a stance on it. Like,
do it.
And my stance is that it's not good practice. Like, it's not in the best interest of furthering creativity, of creating better audiences, of making better productions as time goes on, of branching out into different realms of creativity. Like, it just, you don't do it when you cast name brand actors. Look at fucking Quentin Tarantino. Like, one of his best films, in my opinion, is this really weird, unheard of film called Sukiyaki Western Django. And it's an homage to Wild West spaghetti westerns before Django, like spaghetti westerns and the old like samurai films of the 70s. And it's so good. I cannot describe to you how good this movie is. And it's so freaking weird. And like there's even like a weird Gatling gun scene, and like I can't even, it's so good, and stylistically it's amazing. Like, and it's on the nose but like very unpredictable in some ways. I feel like we need more of that in popular cinema, otherwise you're gonna end up losing audiences over and over again.
It's like one of my favorite movies, and I know we talked about this in the Lost episode, but I'll briefly mention it here. Secret Life of Walter Mitty, man. Like,
oh yeah,
I know that you said you like that movie wasn't exactly for you, and that's fine. Like, that's how movies are. But like, to me, that's what the movie you just described. Like, that's how that movie is to me. Like, it's a really original and unique story that has some really cool and out there storytelling elements about him getting lost in his like mind palace, and like, people do that all the time. People zone out and fantasize, and then people have to bring them back to reality. Like, what does that look like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons why I like that movie. I'm a big Ben Stiller fan for his serious or more serious roles. I think that like his Zoolander roles and stuff aren't for me, but like when I see him in something like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, or even like Night at the Museum, where he's a little bit more like playing a serious character who finds himself in more funny situations, he's phenomenal. But when he's supposed to be like a funny guy like Zoolander, I feel like it doesn't work for me. But that's because I don't like Adam Sandler either for that reason.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're tying this episode up because it's been over an hour.
Yeah, let's wrap it.
So, yes. But marketing. not always the best.
Thanks for bringing a topic, Odie.
Yeah, well, that we still. You're welcome. That's not my job, but you know.
Who knew I woke up so ready to just launch into this stuff? Actually, okay. One more quick thing, and I think this is why I launched into this. You and I were talking about this before we even got on this podcast. Who in the world is playing Raid Shadow Legends?
Oh.
I don't
I thought
know
you
a
wanted to do a
living
whole episode
human
about that.
being who is playing Raid Shadow Legends. And I looked it up this morning because I got on YouTube, and actually I was watching a Warhammer lore video.
Of course you were.
Because I was like, why not watch that? It's already 8 in the morning. I've been awake for 3 hours. Let's watch Warhammer lore. I'm ready. But then the content creator was like, he was like, what do you think the video is? You've probably seen a million of these segments. He's like, that's right. It's Raid Shadow Legends. I was like,
all
what
of them.
the fuck? Like, but then I realized I had this surreal moment where I was like, wait, I've never heard a living person that I've met in person mention Raid Shadow Legends, even offhandedly. Like, not even like, even if I like brought it up, people have been like, yeah, I have no idea what that game is about. And then I went on like a little bit of like a rabbit hole trying to learn about it. And its company, the parent company to Plarium, that makes Raid Shadow Legends, reports that they make $600 million off of their RPG game area, right? Like, so the area that Raid Shadow Legends is in. But Raid Shadow Legends, I think, makes less than half of that and doesn't make any of like the top like 10 lists for most like played games.
It must be a really low cost to like keep it running.
Well, and like, but like it's been marketed for like 5 years, and I've never even heard. Like, remember Pokemon Go came out and it blew up. Like,
yeah,
right? It blew up. Everybody played it. You couldn't stop people from playing it. Like, people got together and did bar crawls and played Pokemon Go. Like, that's how much it blew up. Raid Shadow Legends came out, and I feel like I've just been hearing about it. And I had like a Truman Show moment. I was like, wait. Like, it almost like broke reality for me. I was like, wait. I've never heard someone actually talk about Raid Shadow Legends, but all these people have been talking about it for years. And I've still never like played the game, seen the game. I was like, is the universe fucking with me? Like,
yes.
And so I had to like look it up and investigate. I was like, and then it sent me on this whole thing. I was like, who plays this game? So our Discord with our Destiny clan, I was like, does anyone in this Discord play this game? Nobody, right? I was like, we all play video games. There's a bunch of us. Has anybody played this game? Nobody. Mm-mm. And then I was just like, wow, what the fuck? So when you brought up sharks and like we kind of got into the marketing realm, I was already poised, like I had been primed by Raid Shadow Legends this morning to just launch into a tirade because some people say that that's like a symptom of like ADHD, right? Is that you hyperfixate. And this morning ADHD, if that is indeed what hyperfixated me, was like, yes, Kevin, this is what you will learn this morning, is the legitimacy and or non-legitimacy of Raid Shadow Legends.
Well, I'll be honest, I brought up the sharks thing before the pod. I told you I was like, I have just a random question for you, and my random question was just going to be like, do you think there's too many shark movies? I had no idea that was going to like catapult us into a topic. I didn't have a topic. I had nothing planned. I thought you had something planned. So
I did. I had a whole plan, and it just got derailed because like I said, my brain was primed this morning. It was like ready to just fixate on something and then just go. All right, man. Well, this was a wonderful episode. Actually,
very much so.
Yep. Let's wrap it up with a familiar segment. I like to do this anyway, just because I'm always exploring in this realm. I'm just gonna call it "What's Your Jam?" Like, this is almost like my thing.
Oh yeah.
Let's just do "What's Your Jam?" Like,
I love it.
I know that was from Upstate Coffee Collective.
Yeah, but
and if anybody's listening to this, listen to it, they'll be like, "Oh, Kevin's just doing What's Your Jam?"
Well, let's make it like movies and TV shows and music. Like, let's just broaden it so it's not exactly like that. Because I don't only listen to new music. Most of the time, I listen to podcasts and books on tape.
Okay. Okay. So let's do it. We'll come up with a name for the segment, but for now, we'll call it Earworms and Jam.
Earworms and jam.
That sounds gross, but I'm
That
into
sounds
it.
horrible. All I can think of
Yes!
is earworms and jams.
Sound sandwiches.
Okay, that's perfect. Say less. Now we have to get a sound bite of someone eating a
right,
sandwich very loudly and then going yum at the end.
What's
And
yours?
then it has to be
Hold
like
on.
sandwich bites
Wait,
or whatever.
What's your sound sandwich this week?
No, let's not do actual. So I discovered a band not too long ago that I really like, and I've been listening to them. So I guess I will mention them here. Have you heard of the band Bleachers?
No.
Their biggest hit is the song "I Want to Get Better." They were formed in 2014.
Oh, cool. No.
I hope I'm saying it right. I cannot find it. It's Bleachers, and I'm not sure if it's
Bleachers.
Okay, I didn't know if it was Bleachers or Blelchers, but Blelchers sounds dumb, so I didn't think it was that. But yeah, it's one guy that does all of the in-studio stuff. So when he's making an album, he does all the instruments, all the vocals, all the mixing, all the editing. He does it all. And then he has a touring band from when he goes on tours. Big fan of them. Their first album from 2014, their debut album, has been on repeat. Huge fan of that. And then the TV show that I've been watching, I just want to mention it again, but His Dark Materials. If you have HBO Max, I cannot recommend it enough. It is such a good story. So those are the two things that I want to throw out there. Bleachers.
Hell yeah.
And His Dark Materials.
Okay. That's your sound sandwich.
That's my sound
sandwich.
Well,
it's also visual, too. I don't know. We'll come up with a segment name for it. That's cool, man. My two, if I was going to throw anything out, so I just discovered Nina Chuba, who is a German pop R&B reggae artist.
Okay.
Which I'm always on some stupid hipster shit. That's like, I listen to shit that, like, if other people listen to it, they'd be walking around to people all the time being like, it's really obscure. But, like, I don't know. Once again, maybe it's ADHD, but my brain just goes, what's this? And then I just launch into that realm. And because of that, my Spotify recommendations are all over the place and from a bunch of different countries every week. So, like, I feel like every week I'm just, like, finding new artists that I wouldn't know exist otherwise because Spotify's just like, well, you listen to this, so check this one out. And I've gone on a couple, like, sound trips with different German artists before, but she's super cool. She's, like, really interesting. She has 2 English albums. One is called Power and the other one's called Average, I think. And then she has a new album that just came out called Glass, like Glas, right? And and the song that, like, really got me is called I'm gonna try to say it. Ich glaub, ich will ut nie mehr gehen.
Nailed it. I've heard that song.
But, like, no, for real, like, I listened to that and I was like, yo, this album's, like, this song's sick. And then I found out it was off an album. And she's got, like, the first song's called, like, Mangos Mi Chili. And, like, then it goes into Wildberry Lillet, which is really good. But the album's just dope. And I've been jamming it, even though I don't speak much German. I don't speak much German. I know enough that, like, here and there she'll, like, say a phrase and I'll be like, oh, I know that. But I've been super into that. And then, like I said, I just started Succession. I was super pumped that Adam McKay is an executive producer and directed the first episode. And, like, I can't stop watching it. It's amazing. But
wait,
I want to say that, like, if I was going to recommend anything, I would recommend that whoever has streaming platforms, like, and has been thinking about getting rid of one and doesn't have Apple TV, get rid of whatever you're thinking it is. Is it Hulu or Netflix? Like, whatever it is.
Netflix.
Get the fuck rid of it and get Apple TV. Watch Ted Lasso, watch Shrinking, watch Severance, watch The Servant. Like, I have watched so many good shows on Apple TV in the past year that, like, I was thinking about it yesterday. Like, Brandy and we watched the season finale of Shrinking, and we were like, and Shrinking's amazing, first off. But Shrinking and Ted Lasso are just, like, they're, like, feel-good shows.
Yeah.
I don't feel like those exist.
I love Apple TV.
Like, I feel like that's like a void that needed to be filled, and along came, is it Jason Sudeikis, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jason Sudeikis, and here's Jason Segel, right? And, like, they came along, and and Harrison Ford's in Shrinking. And he's so good in it. He's like this curmudgeon-y old man. But, like, I feel like they have these really awesome, honest moments where characters are, going back into what we were talking about, like, there's payoff. The characters are actually, like, admitting their faults in the episode. You know, like, they're working through shit. And then, like, there's actually a relatively positive resolution most of the time. And I feel like I need that. Like, there's so many shows that are like, it's so dark and gritty and you can't trust anybody in life and it's all a fucking grind until you die. And, like, there's so many shows that are like that. Or it's like, and then there was a murder and we have to solve it, but it might be political secretly. And, like, I'm just done. Like, I feel like I'm fatigued by political intrigue and, like, political drama and, like, all the shows that have been out for so long that are like that, like, having Ted Lasso where the people are learning lessons about just being a good person and what it's like to mature as an adult. Like, and Shrinking, where it's kind of the same thing, but in the realm of psychotherapy. Like, they're just good. Yeah.
Very good. I love Apple TV. I agree.
Same. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's the show. Let's wrap it up, man. I mean, do you have any marketing advice for anybody out there? Any final pieces of wisdom?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Summarize the episode in one sentence.
Okay. Before you market something, find out what the demographic likes so you don't fuck it up. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's that easy.
Before you market something, find out what your demographic likes so you don't fuck it up.
It's that easy.
Here's how I would summarize it. The only way to properly top all the poor marketing decisions of the past is to make Sharknado Christmas.
Ooh, with The Rock.
Perfect. Done.
Nailed it.
Thank you. This has been Unpop. Have a great week.
Bye.